And my next question was going to be, did you have some kind of magic trick that you use to achieve bestseller status? We may have just talked about it, but let me know if that's it or if you had something else you wanted to say.
That's it. The categories. You got to play the game of the algorithm. In my coaching programs, we do Amazon just because you have so much control over what you can do. My number one lesson that I would, tell people is set a launch date and then publish your book a week before. Because you can't do certain things in Amazon until your book is published. Just don't announce that it's live. Just don't tell anybody that it's there. It'll sit there for a couple of days and then you'll launch on December 1st in my case, and that's when your sales will all start coming in. If you don't tell anybody the book doesn't exist before December 1, then nobody's going to buy it. Nobody's going to just stumble across your book and find it. But you need to have your book live before you can set the categories. And so don't wait until launch day to do that because you will miss out.
Speaking on the categories, if Amazon changed this, that would be awesome, but I don't think they have. They give you 2 to start out, but you can have your book in up to 10 categories, but you do need to manually put in the request or give them a call and tell them what you want the categories to be. So audience, just keep that in mind, because the more categories you're in, the more chances you're giving yourself to be a bestseller, number one. And number two, it just helps with the outreach, because there's several categories out there in whatever you're writing. As an example, I became a bestseller in the personal finance / budget / money management / budgeting category. But my book was in 9 other categories. So when it dropped off of being bestseller in the budgeting, it was bestseller in another category. Like the growing and the Kindlepreneur, he's a pretty popular YouTuber that goes heavy into how to become a bestseller. He has a software that lets you look at categories and stuff. The name escapes me, but I'll leave it in the show notes. Yeah, when it comes to these categories, you just want to make sure you do your research, because you want to have at least there's 3 categories. There's the niche category where it's easy to become a bestseller, the kind of mid-range category where it's a little challenging. Then there's the broad category where you probably have a small chance of becoming a bestseller. You want to have a mix of all of them within your 10 categories. The niche ones are to make sure you become a bestseller, and the other ones are more so for visibility for your book.
Yeah, totally. So when I went through mine, I think I didn't do all 10. I think I did 6 categories. And in my coaching program, we get a really specific formula of what you are looking for when you're picking your categories. Because you're right. The first 2 you pick, you want them to be really bang on for the visibility. You want your book to, be put next to books that it's similar like to. And then you want to go with the really random ones like mine, bookmaking and binding. Super obscure, but I have a better chance of hitting bestseller in that category. So it is totally a numbers game. And I really like what you said earlier on in the show, was that you do this, you go after bestseller very strategically. You know what your intent is. And I do want to preface that bestseller is not everything. You can write a book and not want bestseller status. You can write a book and just call it your legacy item and only want to share it with friends and family and just be happy with the fact that you have written a book. And what I learned by becoming bestseller status was that it had nothing to do with my writing. And that sucks. It sucks. My book was bestseller before anybody had read it. I had my, the 5 people that were my proofreaders and my beta readers had read it, and, they left reviews really early on. But before people had my books in their hands, I was bestseller status. So when you hear someone say, "Oh, I'm bestseller," be like, yeah, good for you. You played the numbers game.
I think that's just a perfect testament to the 2 phases, like writing and marketing. The marketing, it's funny that they're related to each other, but they're kind of not. Because you just mentioned that you can become a bestseller technically before someone's even picked up your book.
Yeah, I know. I was so excited to receive bestseller status until I realized what it meant.
Well, I will say this: if you achieve bestseller status from that point forward, technically you are a best-selling author. So you can use that reputation to get more opportunities in the future or near future, whether it be like getting on more podcasts, maybe potentially even getting on television. And just that recognition of being a best-selling author, it carries a certain weight behind it. So it's always good to have from a reputation perspective.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, like not everyone necessarily might want like a reputation, or then that might not be why they're doing it. They may have other reasons. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind. Like if you have other reasons for it, like don't feel bad if you don't achieve it, because like we just talked about, it's very intentional. The whole randomizing of, oh, I might hit it, I might not, like that's like 10% of people. Everyone that's a bestseller, they had a direct plan to be so, and they did direct things to do it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I really like what you said there because my coaching clients, they write business books. And so their whole intention is to build authority and credibility. So we do go after bestseller every time. That is our goal. Because like you said, you ride on that wave, because unless you're in the author world and you're listening to this podcast because you want to become an author, use it as a side hustle, you have that nugget that bestseller status, only means so much. Others do not. The other 98% of the world sees bestseller status as like, oh my gosh, you must be really good at what you do. And they are, glamour and glitzed by that title. They really are. And so if you're looking for media coverage, if you're looking for speaking gigs, you want to go for bestseller status. I mean, author status is enough quite often. You can say, by saying you're an author, before I hit bestseller status, I was writing articles for news outlets that had nothing to do with my genre of book. I was in sci-fi and I was writing self-help blogs and journals because I was writing that author status. Now that I've hit best-selling status, I'm getting more speaking engagements. I'm coming on more podcasts and things like that. So author is step one, best-selling is step two.
That's actually a good side tie-in into like a freelancing, because we've had a show on being a freelancer. And if you're like, let's just forget bestseller for an instance. If you're just an author, like she said, you can use that as a form of credibility. If you have a published book out there, to get more freelancing opportunities to write articles in your niche. And obviously they're going to pay you for these articles, whatever your rate is. You can actually use that to negotiate a higher rate sometimes. Because being an author, you got to realize that I forgot the percentage. Someone actually did a poll of like all the authors in the world, but it's like less than 10% of the population has written a book. So being an author alone carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, 3% is the last number I saw. I think it's 98% of people want to write a book and 3% actually do.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Yeah. What's up, everyone? What you just watched was a clip from one of the episodes of the Side Hustler Society podcast. So if you're interested in this clip, I encourage you to check out the full episode linked in the description and also on the end screen right now. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new and hit that bell notification if you want to be notified when the show comes out. And thumbs up on the video greatly helps. Appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next video.